don't think money and resources are the only thing that can get you success. It's really about how you utilize what you have in hand at that moment.
When we need help, we rely more on other people outside of our family.
Do either this or that. Stop putting your feet in both.
What about for someone who doesn't have a lot of money or resources?
Like, how do you show up for yourself and your work every single day? That's what speaks volumes.
That if you're not getting the right opportunity, you make one for yourself and you go all out and you showcase what you're capable of doing.
Networking is also not just about saying hi, hello in that moment and spinning your resume. It's really about building a connection.
So today on the show, we are joined by someone whose story is as inspiring as it is powerful. She came to the US at the age of 18, stepping into a brand new world with big dreams and heart full of courage. Despite facing judgments, peer pressure, and all the noise that came with trying to find your place, she stayed true to herself. Rather than following the crowd, she chose to carve her own path. She found her voice in filmmaking, acting, and podcasting, where she not only created a safe space for herself, but also for others. Her podcast journey led to some amazing opportunities, including hosting a Netflix screening for The Archies and connecting with inspiring creatives across the globe. She's a proof that when you lean into your authenticity, doors open. Please welcome the incredibly talented Ritika Agarwal today.
Thank you so much for having me. That was such an incredible introduction. I don't think I've ever heard anyone speak like that about me. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I would love to begin with the fact that, let's go back to the moment when you landed in the US at the age of 18. What did you dream about back then? And how different were you then compared to how you are?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's crazy to think that 18 was almost 9 years ago. That's wild. But honestly, I was like any other college kid, right? I was excited to come to college. For me, it was moving to a new country. It wasn't like my friends just going a couple of hours away. I was going overseas and I had this adrenaline. I was so excited. I always had this dream and this passion of I'm going to be going to the US to study. So I think for me, that was my big dream at that moment. But in terms of profession, I think what my 6-year-old self had dreamt of, it was somewhere suppressed, over the years. And to say that my parents were very supportive, I still didn't have enough clarity to vocalize that that's something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So when I spoke to a bunch of people, and of course, as we're Indians, a lot of people were like, do something that's more technical. And if that's not STEM and if it's creativity that kind of, leads your way, then architecture might be a great choice. And so I actually came to the States to study architecture. And I think for me in that time at 18, it wasn't more so the degree, but more so, I want to be big. I want to make it big. I want to have a positive impact. So those dreams were much more vague. I'd say I was in this starting line of being my work in progress self. And I think I've come such a long way since. So yeah, 18-year-old me and 26-year-old me are very different, but we're still the same at the same time. Our dreams are a lot more articulate. I'd say 26-year-old has found herself way back to how she was when she was 6. And I think everything that I did ever since I landed in this country, has led me to that. So I'd say, yeah, we're different, but we're still pretty much the same.
So, when you came here, what were some of the challenges that you faced? Were there any cultural shocks that you had? Because I know, I came here at the age of 7, and I remember, I was pretty young, but I was shocked in a lot of ways in how things were here, I was bullied for the way I looked and for my accent, and it was difficult for the kid in me to tackle all of that, right? But in your case, you came here when you were a teen. You came back when you were a teen, right? So what were some of the shocks? What were some of the struggles?
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine what it must have been like when you were 7, because that's a whole different time. You were still learning so much about yourself and you're so young. So I'm sorry that you had that experience. I think for me, I was raised in different countries, right? I mean, I don't remember my time in the States, but I was in Nigeria, and then I spent a lot of time in Pune, which was home for me. And then Pune is also a really, really big city. And for me, when I was over there, America was New York, Chicago, Vegas, Miami, LA, all of these cities. And then I came to Iowa, and I landed in the heart of the Midwest. And so I was obviously in shock just by that. And I learned like 80% of the country is Iowa, like Iowa. So I think that was my big shock. And the second big shock that I actually really had was independence. Growing up as a young Indian girl in India, I always had curfews. I always had to tell my parents like who I'm going out with, where I'm going, come back home at a certain time. And then suddenly I had all of this freedom when I came here. I could do what I wanted. I wasn't answerable to anybody, but that came with a lot of responsibility as well. Nobody was accountable for me. I had to make my own decisions, and that was very liberating in itself. So I think that was a huge culture shock for me. I mean, I still have friends in India who have to tell their parents where they're going and what time they're coming, and we're like 26. So, I mean, I still do it, but I do it out of choice. I don't have to do it because I'm asked to. So I think that's a huge culture shock. In terms of challenges, I think I've always been very rooted with my identity. I've never felt different or like confused that I'm Indian. I've always like owned that, and I've always loved that about myself. But apart from that, like when I did go to Iowa, there wasn't a lot of diversity around me, and that was new. And I mean, obviously, I did have a different accent. I look different. And I also eventually from architecture went into studying advertising. So I think that time there were definitely a couple of challenges because I was losing my confidence. I didn't know how to present myself. But I was also surrounded by really good advisors and like really good people that helped me build that back. So yeah, that was like one of the big challenges that I'd faced early on. But I overcame that like in a short time in college, which was nice.
That's amazing. And you mentioned about the fact that when you were in India, you had to tell your parents and your family where you were going and when you'll be back, right? And now that we think, because it was the same case with me, and now when I think about it, I kind of see where that school of thought came from, because at the end of the day, they wanted our safety, right? Yeah. And then coming here, obviously there are a new set of challenges, but at least we have more freedom, and that, believe it or not, that does contribute a lot to your confidence, when you're just able to go out and meet with people, make connections, and just be yourself unapologetically.
Exactly. I also think it helps you make the right decisions for yourself, right? Like, I mean, going back to what I was saying, I had this 6-year-old dream. Like, I made scrapbooks and I spoke about it then, and then it was suppressed. And I think when I came here, I got I had more exposure in things I could do. I saw a lot of my friends around me have like their college lives, but also building something on the side. So you're right. So I think that also opens up your avenues in so many new ways. And yeah, I just wanted to add that.
No, that's true, because usually the school of thought is that, go into engineering, go into medicine, like pick a more stable, safe route. But in today's day and age, there is no safe route. Like everything is unpredictable with the emergence of AI and all the technology, right? So there is no stable route. But I think one thing that I see here, like differently, is okay, people are more like multi-hyphenate. So they do multiple things at the same time, right? Like you mentioned, sure, they have their 9 to 5, but then they also have a 5 to 9. And they're building something, which is always very empowering.
I'd love to be in a world where everyone's 5 to 9 is their 9 and beyond. Honestly, I think, like you said, there's not a lot of stability in any career you choose. I get where our parents' generation was coming from, because I feel like they did see a lot of struggles. They have provided us the soft cushion to be able to do what we want to do right now. But I think if, say, like film, for example, for me is something that I've always wanted to do, and if 6-year-old me was able to vocalize that enough, I wish I had started that early on. Like, I wish I did that when I was 17 and didn't feel the need to kind of go and build a stable career, because eventually I am doing what I wanted to do, yeah.
Like you mentioned that obviously their school of thought is completely different, but it does make sense, because when they were growing up, the way they saw it was, okay, we'll get a good job, we have our families to support, we have kids to take care of, all of that. But for our generation, things have changed. We just don't want money, we want more than that. We want satisfaction, we want peace, we want a more fulfilling career. So that's really true. You mentioned a great point that, at one point you were you were working towards getting a job and building like a stable career. Then after a point of time you realize that, this is not for me. I want to do something else. I would like to act. I would like to go into filmmaking. When did that happen exactly? At what point?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, I think for me, acting and film is something that I've always loved. Like, I mean, when I was in Nigeria, when I was in India, that's something that I found myself doing quite a lot. It gave me escapism. It's something that I was very, very like drawn by. So it was always at the back of my mind. I never had a aha moment like in my teens. It was always there at the back of my mind. But like I said, it was suppressed because I was told to have a very stable life and a stable career. And I really appreciate the education system here because while I started out my journey as an architect, within a year knew that that wasn't for me. I actually knew it even before because when I landed in Chicago, I remember the architecture boat tour like going down my hotel. And as an architect, like I should have been very excited and I should have wanted to do it, but I didn't. And that was my first sign that I did not want to do it. And so I switched to advertising, which was, I feel like I would have switched to film had Iowa State had a program in film, but advertising was close to it. And so while I was doing all of that, I think even during COVID, it somewhat blurred the boundaries of like states and countries. And so I was able to like find a lot of people that were doing things in media. And I started auditioning during that time. I was like, hey, let's give this a try. I did a couple of acting workshops from Bombay. They started doing some online things, so I started getting more involved in that. And then I also started creating content for some of the biggest like Indian media companies, and so kind of started like dipping my toes in that field. And I realized that I really really enjoy it, but the fact that I could fully own it and the fact that I could be in it full time was very far-fetched. Like that's something I'd not really thought of. So I kept doing it on the side. And then when I moved to Chicago, I got signed on by an agency, did a commercial, did not get aired in the commercial, but still was great experience. And then again, put it on the back burner, right? Because I was like, oh, like it's a new job. I should like focus on that. But I think finally I can see now I'm in that moment where I'm like, nope, no more. Like no more of my 5 and 9 being my 5 and 9. I want it to be my full time. And for that, I need to give up something. And that was my full time job. So it was a really liberating moment that I was able to do that, of course. So I think that was like my aha moment of like, no, my 6-year-old dream has to come back. And like, I really want to focus on that.
That is really interesting, and I've said this to you before off camera, and I'll say it again. Not everyone has the courage to do it, right? We all think about it. We all would, at some point, would like to take that step, but not many people have the courage to do it. So where did you find that courage?
It took a lot of time. I remember a lot of months crying about not wanting to be where I was. I learned a lot, okay, but it's very hard. Like you said, it's very challenging. I think I got very lucky. I am surrounded by some of the most amazing, I have the most amazing support system. Like the people that I love and the people that love me are so supportive and always push me to take the right step. They'll ask me challenging questions, but they've always got my back. And I think that really helped me. I remember when I had that moment of, no, I want to quit my job, I was so scared to tell my mom. Like, I'm 26, okay? I can make these decisions, but I was so scared. And I remember that moment so clearly because it was just a couple of months ago. And I sat down, like we were having dinner, and she just asked me a question, and it was really simple, but I broke down and I just started crying. And she was like, I didn't say anything. Why are you crying so much? Why are you being so dramatic? And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. And she was like, fine, quit. And when she just said those 2 words to me, fine, quit, I was like, are you serious? You have no questions for me? She's like, no. She's like, I've seen you struggle. I've seen you given so much time for your 5 and beyond. You're really putting in the work. You've gotten your work experience, which is amazing. Just quit. This is your time. You've got age on your side. You've got time on your side. Give it your all and see what it's got for you. Because if you don't do it now, you're not going to know. Like, you're going to regret it when you're 40. So just do it. And when she said those words to me, that's it. Like, I had nothing else that could have stopped me. And then after a couple of days, woke up with like, I'm done, and gave my notice in my company. So I think it's the support system that really helps you. And of course, like, being financially a little bit stable, like work experience, like have a little bit of savings, speak to your parents about it, take help, honestly. I feel like our generation sometimes can be like, oh my God, I'm not going to take any help. I'm so self-made and self-sustained, which is amazing. Like, if you can do that for yourself, awesome. But it's not bad to ask for help in your early stages. If your parents can support you, take the help and then give back. They'll be more happy when you're successful, like 10 years later.
I love that so much. So first of all, kudos to your mom.
Yeah.
I think she is an amazing lady. I'm sure she's an amazing lady because I don't see a lot of Indian parents like that, especially. And I think honestly, when you have your parents' support, especially your mom's support, that's everything. Then you don't need anything else, right? You can fight the world, you can face all the challenges that'll come your way because this is something that you want to do and you're going in by choice, right? No one is forcing you or like any of us. But when you have your parents' support, especially your mom's support with you, then it's like, okay, at least after all the countless rejections, at least I have a family that I can go back to. So definitely family support is really important, especially parents. Second thing that you mentioned, which I really really liked, is that there's absolutely nothing wrong in going back to your parents and saying the fact that, hey, I need help, right? Because they're your parents after all. You're their kid. They love you the most, right? They'll do what it takes to protect you, to make you feel safe for the most part. I hope all parents are like that. But like you said, in today's generation, in our generation, the issue is that we want to be independent and that's great. We want to be self-sufficient. But when we need help, we rely more on other people outside of our family than our family. And I think sometimes when you don't meet the right people outside, then you start falling in traps and you get in trouble, and that just gets worse with time.
It's like having your set of board of advisors. Like every big company, everything you start has like a board, right? So having that for yourself is very important. People that can ground you, that can bring you back. And I think when I do say that, go and ask for help, don't just do that. Like have a plan of action. Like tell them exactly what you want to do and what you're doing. Then it makes sense. Don't just be like, hey, I don't want to work and like I quit my job and I'm going to my parents. That's also not cool. Just like have that experience. Also test the waters and see if that's something you really want to do. I was able to do that. And then that's how I was able to leave my job and get help and start what I really wanted to do.
Have a business idea and you go to an investor to pitch, you'll go with a proper plan, right? You'll just not pass like a vague statement. Same thing applies for your family. Like you need to show them something. You need to go in with your research done. That's really true. So I would love to get more into your podcast, Chai with Chams. Such an interesting name. I love it, right? And such a beautiful platform. Like I was just seeing the Instagram page the other day and I love the vibe. I saw you did a small event and you did a whole photo shoot and I was like, yeah, this is really cool, right? So that was something that you built from ground up, from scratch. So how did that look like?
Yeah, first of all, it's so fun being on the other side of the couch because I'm usually on that side interviewing people. So it's fun talking about myself. But Chai with Champs is like my first creative baby that I started when I was doing my full-time job. And it solely came from one, loving to be in front of the camera. And then two, I love just talking to very inspiring people and kind of bridging the gap at that moment between enthusiasts and champs and kind of having a variety of people in different genres and like different fields of work. But now I'm working on season 3 and it's finally going to be a full-blown production and it's getting more niched, so it's going to be focusing solely on people that are in South Asian cinema, and the goal of it is to really bridge the gap between the East and the West in South Asian cinema and give those people the center stage, because often we're still on the sidelines, and of course we have those household names that we absolutely need, but there's still a lot of folks that go into making a film come to life, and my goal is to really give them the center stage, because it goes back to my dream of being in films, right? So that's what Chai with Champs is about, in terms of the name, it's really funny because growing up, I don't drink chai, but I would always be on the table of all my family members having chai, and we talk about the most random things under the sky during that time. So that's why Chai with Tramps came about, and obviously I'm inspired by Coffee with Karan as well, so it's kind of a play on both of those things. But yeah, I think starting something from scratch takes a lot of guts and a lot of research, of course. I didn't know anything about podcasting when I started out. So just learning about like what mics to invest in. And at that time, it was more of a pilot season, right? Like I was still doing all the interviews online. But like, how do you reach out to people? What kind of guests do you bring on board? How does distribution work? I think I spent a lot of months kind of researching before I started out and making a plan for myself. And I think when you start out something from scratch, it's also important to be networking and meeting the right kind of folks. So I think in the world of DMs, I like to say always slide into DMs for the right reasons. But I got to meet a lot of people through that, and I learned a lot. I built some sort of a creative network through that as well. And that kind of helped me and gave me a little bit more encouragement to kind of launch it. And then, yeah, I think the end of it is just do it. Like, you're never going to have a right time, and you're never going to be oh, I'm so prepared right now. Like, you just kind of have to do it, and then you learn on the go. And so that's how Try with Champs came to be. It has been 2 years, and now finally like filmed my first episode like literally last week in New York, and the rest of episodes are going to be filmed in LA. I'm not sure if this episode will drop around that same time, but I'm very excited for the guests I have on board, and then also kind of fulfilling the mission of really bridging the East and the West for South Asian cinema.
That sounds amazing. Congratulations. I'm really excited. So you already had the first and the second season, right? So like what has been, like if you were to go back and recall all the interactions that you had, what was one of the most meaningful interactions out of all of them? And maybe how did that change?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is such a good question, and it's so hard. It's so hard because all of my conversations were so good. I think the most latest episode with Ankur Rathi hit home for me because him and I feel like had a very similar journey where he was a performer growing up. Like he would always be dancing, and I've also been a dancer growing up. He always loved movies. He'd watch movies with his grandparents, and then did the whole corporate thing. He like was also working in advertising, moved to New York, would do his advertising job, and then would do Broadway and do all of those things. And then finally had his dad came and told him, do either this or that. Stop putting your feet in both. Right. And then he did that. I mean, he moved to Bombay, he auditioned a bit, and now he works in Bollywood. So it was a very amazing conversation. It was very humbling. It was a great reminder that, you kind of have to hustle and you need to be consistent in what you're doing. So his journey was, I think, the most relatable, I would say. But another thing that I had a conversation with Trisha, who is the CEO of Brown Girl magazine, she actually, I don't know if she told this to me on the podcast or off the podcast, but she told me that if you don't find the opportunity, make the opportunity yourself. And that's how I honestly became a self-starter. Like I made the podcast, I did all of these things because I was like, I'm tired of like knocking doors. Not that I wasn't getting it, but I would rather have my own than do it for like someone else and try and find that door of opportunity. So yeah.
No, I love that. So I was listening to this Bollywood actress Kriti Sen, and I love her. Yeah. And she said the same thing, that if you're not getting the right opportunity, you make one for yourself and you go all out and you showcase what you're capable of doing. And yesterday I was talking to someone else about the same thing, and he told me, well, that is true, but he had a slightly different opinion, and I would love to know what you think. He was like, she's able to say that, or people in that position are able to say that because, they have the money, right? They have the resources. But what about for someone who doesn't have a lot of money or resources? In that case, what should they do? So what would you say?
I think starting out could be at any level. right? You don't need to invest, like, for, I can speak for myself, like for the podcast, you really don't need to invest in a mic, for example. If you have a laptop, you can just record your podcast on that. So it really depends what kind you want, like what kind of a podcast you want to do. I'm specifically talking about a podcast, but I think generally I get where this person's coming from, but I think you build from scratch. There are so many stories out there where people had nothing and they're like super super successful right now. I don't think money and resources are the only thing that can get you success. It's really about how you utilize what you have in hand at that moment. That's my take. I think you can absolutely be a self-starter in whatever you have.
I love that and I agree with you. And I would say that our generation is really lucky because we have access to so many things. We have social media. I mean,
It's the DIY world. Like,
yeah.
you can do anything under the sky for like very limited resources now, and you can learn anything under the sky.
Exactly. I mean, there are all these. If you want to learn something, you can take a course online. You can watch YouTube videos for free. If you want to showcase any of your talent, you can simply make an Instagram page or YouTube channel. Like you can reach the world on just one click. And I think in the past that never happened. So I think the only excuse that we or anyone is giving to ourselves is just not that important.
Yeah, I mean, saying that I don't have XYZ things is an excuse. And yeah, I think people can argue that, oh, that comes from a place of privilege. But again, like to the point you were making, I think you can do anything under the sky with whatever you have.
Yeah, and I've seen, like you said, we have seen so many people who started from absolutely nothing. They just had an iPhone, or not even an iPhone, or a very old phone, and they started making videos, posted on Instagram, TikTok, and now look at them, right?
Yeah, I mean, even like brands, there are so many brands or like people that rose from nothing. Even filmmaking, for example, right? There's so many filmmakers that started filming their movies on like iPhones and then like grew from there. Like I can't remember the director at the top of my mind, but there's one who's literally shot all of his films on an iPhone and he's very successful. Like he's gotten his films on like quite a lot of big film festivals. So it really depends. I think it's to each their own.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's your talent. It's actually even more than talent. I'll say it's your hard work.
Yeah.
And it's how bad you want it.
And it's also being consistent and showing up every single day. Like, how do you show up for yourself and your work every single day? That's what speaks volumes.
And to that, I'll say that even if you don't show up every single day, it's fine because obviously your motivation won't be the same every single day. But then you should know that, okay, if you're feeling down, after a point of time, you need to gather the courage and get up and just move on.
Yeah, that's showing up for yourself. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
If you don't show up for yourself, you cannot expect anyone else to. No, that's very true. And I think this is something you told me off camera, but this podcast led to some other amazing opportunities. So I would love for you to speak more.
Yeah, oh gosh. I think I view my podcast as a butterfly effect and as a launch pad, to be honest. Like one thing leads to the other, then the other thing leads to the other. It's been such a beautiful experience. I think through the podcast, I was able to, host Netflix's premiere, The Archies premiere in Chicago. And that honestly came from like being one of the few people that had a podcast in Chicago and was doing these kind of things. And that experience was amazing because first of all, we're having amazing like global movies being premiered in the US. Amazing. So that experience was awesome. And that experience led me to go to the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles just in a couple of months after that. And I was able to be on the red carpet for that. I was able to meet some incredible filmmakers. And then I hosted the premiere for Kill, which was awesome because I got to speak to the producer and the director of the film. Again, just like learning so much more. And I think as I got those experiences, I was able to niche my podcast and kind of realign on my goals as to what I want to do in this whole industry. So I think, one thing led to the other, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
No, that's awesome, and congratulations on that because it's not easy. It's an achievement in itself. What does that teach you about the importance of networking and making connections?
I said previously, like networking is so, so important. And I do want to say that sometimes you're going to meet people that you might not be the biggest fan of, or sometimes they just don't meet, the core person as to who you are. And that's okay. I think that's what networking teaches you. But like, networking is also not just about saying hi, hello in that moment and spinning your resume. It's really about building a connection and making that connection last for a very long time. Like, for example, if you and I were to meet at a filmmaking event right now, I would rather approach and like learn more about you as who you are as a person, and then follow up and build that relationship through that. That is true networking. But if we just met and I got, your card or your number or your Instagram, and you told me about, you're a podcast host, you film, you write a book, like basically have your resume and I spill my resume too, that's really not networking in my opinion. Like I just got to know what you do, and I could have gotten to know that about you through LinkedIn as well. I think networking is more about relationship building. And when you do that, you need to know when to tap into those resources, and what do you also bring to the table, right? It's a two-way stream. Yeah, so I think that's how I approach networking usually. But then, yes, when you do surround yourself and when you pick and choose from all the people you meet and you surround yourself with the right folks, I always like to say that your vibe attracts your tribe at the end of the day. Some sort of collaboration comes to be in the future, and it's beautiful. So, for example, the short film that I just got back from New York is such a fun story because Rianjali is someone who I met last year through my podcast, and I hosted her, and we didn't really keep that much in touch. It was just like, on Instagram or whatever. But then I reached out to her saying, hey, like I'm going to be doing season 3. Do you know anybody in LA who would be a good fit? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, I also want some advice on production, because she's originally a musician and a composer who just got into producing films as well. And we got talking, and she gave me a lot of advice, and she's like, hey, like I'm going to be actually making a short film in New York next week. Like, are you down? And I was like, absolutely. And, we immediately bonded when we met. I think that's like a beautiful story of how like networking led to relationship building, that led to collaboration and opportunities, and now to lifelong friendship and loyalty. So I think that's like the perfect example of how networking can lead you to beautiful opportunities and friendships and chosen families along the way.
No, I love that, and I love how beautifully you expressed yourself here, because networking, like you mentioned, it's not just about spitting out your resume, it's about making meaningful relationships and connections. And like you mentioned, it's always a two-way street, right? Like if you are doing, if you want something from someone, then you also need to give something to them. It should be that like it, at least it starts from that value driven relationship, and then you move on to the next stage and you truly bond in that case.
Do that is that, but if you are doing something for someone, you shouldn't also have expectations that they would be doing that. I think it also needs to come from just a true appreciation of and a true appreciation of one another, and being a little bit selfless. But then I think that comes from like how you feel in your gut about them. Like I think your gut is always true. And so like I said, when you meet 100 people, you would have 10 people that you really, really like. And then just like helping one another and being supportive in our community is very, very important, and uplifting one another through that is important as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's also about how you present yourself, right? Like treating people with respect, treating people with dignity, that's really important, because and that goes for all relationships, right? So in my case, I would like to speak about custom community, right? Everything that I'm able to do today, whether it's this podcast or the short films that I'm working on, all of that happened because of that community, because I got to connect with like-minded individuals. I got to connect with people who really became a very strong support system for me and encouraged me. And that brings me to the point that it's very important who your tribe is, like who you surround yourself with, because if you're around people who are constantly like pushing you down, like you cannot do it. I mean, there's so many people already doing it. What more are you gonna add to it? That will bring your motivation down, right? But if you're around people who are constantly motivating you, they're giving you the right advice, they want you to do well in life, then you'll automatically get more motivation and encouragement to follow your dreams. So it's really important to be around the right people and really put yourself out there.
1000% agreed, yeah.
So we spoke about your podcast and the Archies, and I can imagine it must be like the moment, right? Must be beautiful. I would love to go back and talk about uh, the point of time when you were quitting your job to get into acting and filmmaking. You mentioned that it was your family, it was your mom basically who gave you that courage, right? But outside of your mom, aside of your mom, was there anyone else?
Of course, like apart from my mom, I have a very small but very amazing support system that are each my sounding board. I think the biggest role that apart from my mom, who really played an important role, was my partner. Like he just always encouraged me so much. Every single morning said I got this, and always quite kind of questioned me. He's like, "You give me entrepreneur vibes." I was like, "I don't think I can do it," and he was like, "No, I think you can do it. Like take that jump." And we would have these discussions for months, and I would like keep crying to him about like how I want to quit my job and like how I'm not meant to do this. And it was very liberating to be able to talk to him about it and him just giving me really solid advice. And then just having his support after that. I mean, in film, he's also in film. And so he's done it before I have. And just having him as an inspiration and having him kind of show me the path. I'm also sometimes very emotionally driven and not logically driven, and he's more logical than I am. So that helps because sometimes I get emotionally attached to things, and he helps me come back, to the main purpose and to the why of things, and how it's important to lead business from a logical standpoint and not always from an emotional standpoint. So yeah, of course, like apart from my mom, he has played a huge role. My best friend is my hype queen. Like I'm surrounded by the best girlfriends here in Chicago, and my best friend at back home, they're just my biggest hype queens, and just giving me that emotional support has been wonderful, and them telling me that I can do it. So yeah, I think there's each person in my life plays a very different role. My mom like just telling me that I can do it and that I should follow my dreams. My partner just kind of giving me real solid advice and like showing me a path on how I can do this, and my girlfriends being my hype queens. Like what else do I need? I don't think I need anything else. And honestly, it's been 4 weeks since I've quit my job, and there have been so many opportunities that lined up back to back after that, and so many more going forward. So it's just all very reassuring, and I've met such incredible people in the last few weeks that it's exciting. It's also very nerve-wracking, but I always keep getting reminded that I have this support system to fall back on.
No, I love that. And I think speaking of partners and relationship, it's very important to have the right partner with you, right? Because you spend a lot of time with them, and you connect with them in a very deep, in a very meaningful way. And if you don't have the right person, if you're not with the right person, then that can be really toxic in the long run. So what advice would you give to someone, especially a South Asian woman, or any woman for that matter, with ambitions, dreams, wanting to really go out there and achieve their aspirations? How they should approach relationships?
That's a great question. Love yourself first is my only advice. Find yourself, love yourself, know yourself completely, know what you want, know what you don't want. And I think when you feel complete as an individual, I mean, see, I still feel like I'm very much work in progress, and there's so many things that I need to work on as a person. But I think when you know your core self completely and you're not looking for a relationship because you need a boyfriend, because that's what you've grown up seeing, and that's what Bollywood films have shown you, and that's what like every cartoon has shown, like the main character having a boyfriend. If that's your reason of having a partner, like please don't. You're going to attract someone you don't need in your life. And obviously like certain relationships teach you a lot. So I'm not dissing on like if a relationship goes bad and like the person you are with is the person for the rest of your life. Relationships in general teach you a lot. But I think advice is always like find yourself first, work on yourself. Self-love is huge. Carving out time for yourself even when you're in a relationship is very important. And I think that's what allows you to be ambitious. That's what allows you to be creative no matter what. So I think that's kind of what I'd say in terms of advice.
I love that, and I think it's completely okay to not have like it's completely okay to not meet those timelines that a lot of people.
Oh, 1000%. Yeah.
It's completely okay to find someone in your 30s, in your 40s, even beyond.
I think age is just a number. I mean, honestly, for my timeline, I wanted to be married by now and have all of my kids before 29. And there's nothing like that I'm seeing right now. I would be so scared if that happened. So, yeah, no, timelines are just something that we were told of. I mean, come think of it, right? Our parents like had all of us when they were 25. And we're still figuring out our lives when we're 25 or 26. You're much younger than that. So, I mean, you're starting out early, which is good. Yes, it's completely okay to take your time, find the person when you do find the person. And sometimes when you're not even looking, it kind of happens very unexpectedly. So I think just being open, but it's really about working on yourself, honestly, and not jumping into something just because you think that that's right.
And I think it's very important to be happy from within.
Yeah.
Because if you're miserable from inside, if you're unhappy, you will make the other person's life miserable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yes, you have your insecurities, but I think there's two things. Having insecurities and not addressing them is going to rub off on your relationship. Having insecurities and being self-aware is fine because that's something that you can work on, and you can also like talk to your partner about it. So I think it goes back to what I was saying of self-love and self-work. At the end of the day, that's what's important, and that's what helps you find the right partner for yourself if that's something you want in your life. And I think when you're in the right relationship and the right partnership, it helps you grow. Like two individuals are their own separate entities, they're two wholes, but then they help one another kind of grow in whatever that might be. And you could be in completely different professions. I lucked out here that my profession's kind of the same, but I think even if you're in two complete different professions, respecting one another for what you're doing, I think comes from a place of love, trust, and being secure in yourself.
I love how you put that, how you express that. That's amazing. And I also feel that I see a lot of people say that, we are very focused on our own lives and ambitions. We don't have the time for a relationship. But the truth is that today's world it's so fast and there's so many things happening. And if you say that, you'll never have time for a relationship, right? It's really about finding the time and really giving that time to your partner and vice versa. And it's not that you're like competing with them. They're your partner.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think to each their own again. Like for some people, they probably are not ready to be in a relationship because they are really focused on their careers. And that's okay. Like if you know that about yourself and you don't think you want to spend the time, that's fine. But like you said, I think when you are in one, you have to take out time for one another, especially if you're starting out in a relationship. I think that comes without saying. But yeah, you also need to know that that's the person. Like why. The why is very important, and no matter what you do, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your side hustle, your hobby, whatever it may be, like knowing your why and your purpose is the most important thing.
You talk a lot about self-love and finding yourself and finding your identity. What does that journey look like for you in everyday basis?
Yeah, I always use this term so much. My friends make fun of me now. I like saying like romanticize your life as much as you can, and romanticize. Yeah, and I don't think romanticizing always necessarily means traveling and like going to a fancy place and whatever. It's really about finding those little things in your everyday. And I think over the last year, I've tried to find a rhythm and a routine of what makes me feel like I'm romanticizing my life every day. And it's really simple, I love to start my day with a workout. I've gotten into journaling. That really helps me. I get to see Lake Michigan, and I play like really soft music, and I journal. That's really important for me. I love carving out time for new experiences. So it's something that I didn't do. I remember last year I did like this solo, I went for like a ballet show. That was the first time I watched a ballet show, and it was just me by myself. It was very awkward for me to do that because I'd never done that before. I think simple things like that, it's really it's not rocket science. It's really simple in finding self-love and also carving out time with your loved ones. Like my family, my friends are very important to me. And when I'm able to detach myself from work and from my everyday surroundings for a little bit of time every week, that allows me to be more creative going forward. And so I love doing that as well. Sometimes I love being spontaneous as well, things, yes to things that I probably wouldn't have said yes to, whether that's an opportunity or whether that's going out and doing something completely different, you know? So there's a bunch of things, and I think it's different for every person. I also like carving out time for my hobbies. Like I love going dancing, I love trying something else. And yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things that have helped me find self-love and have helped me come closer to who I am as a person. um yeah, I would say that. And I think for every person, like, go and explore the city you are in. You're not going to be in your 20s living in whatever city you are probably again. Like, you just never know what the future holds. So yeah, live in the present. And no matter what the challenges are, of course, it's being called a little bit optimistic, and it's okay to kind of feel, you know, negative on some days and feel low. But always try and remember, like, this moment is probably not going to come, and it's probably prepping you for a better future. So just kind of chill. Like, don't take yourself so seriously, and just relax a little bit.
I'm honestly loving this discussion because it is kind of allowing me to introspect and dig more, like, deeper into what I'm doing with my life. And I'll just say one thing, that, you know, we take too much stress. Yeah. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, yeah, right? If you're stressed out about how your boss is going to react the next day, or how that meeting will go, it's a very little problem. Like, if you look at the world, there are much bigger problems. People are going through so many different issues, but they're still finding reasons to be happy. And if something is not aligning with you, just leave. Yeah. Right? Sometimes that's the best decision that you can make for yourself, because, like you said, it can lead to other great opportunities. And I honestly feel that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I'm of the same belief. Yeah.
It happens for your best. You might not see it today, but eventually you will.
Yeah, I've always said that, and I think a lot. I've had these discussions with multiple people, and some people always argue like that's too much optimism. Like, you know, you're kind of living in. You're being delusional, is what people would say. I think for me, even if that's delusional, at least that helps me like move forward and like stay sane. And also, I do want to say, like, I do have moments where I'm thinking about every single thing. Like, I'm in that phase right now where, like, because I'm like pivoting, right, I'm completely like finally agreeing to what I want to do, and I'm in film production and acting and doing this podcast. Sometimes I do have imposter syndrome. I do think of, oh, what is this person going to think about me? But then I have to go back and think, like, does it really matter? Like, does it really matter? And it's hard. Like, it does not come easy. You do have vent sessions, and you do like take up a lot of real estate of your mind and spend so much time on it. But I think, again, just like going back, like seeing the big picture view sometimes really helps. For me personally, journaling really helps. Like, just like scribbling my thoughts sometimes is very helpful.
And you have to think about it this way, right? Everyone is fighting their own battle. No one has the time. You think you're like really important, yeah, but you're not.
Everyone's on their own journey. I always say, like, run your own race. You will be on your chapter 1. The person you're comparing yourself with is on chapter 10 probably. You don't even know about that. Unfortunately, we live in a world of social media where everybody, like even myself, I'm posting my best moments. I'm not posting my worst moments, right? And so, like, reminding yourself that it's okay. You're running your own race, and you've come a long way. You're comparing yourself from who you were yesterday. I think that should keep you going. And again, this comes from, like, it takes a lot of time, obviously, and it's easier said than done. I myself, like, while I'm saying it, deal with it. Like, probably an hour earlier, I was having imposter syndrome. But I think it's okay. As long as you're aware of it and you keep moving forward, you're fine.
Yeah, and I love what you said about social media. All of us are putting our best moments, best photos, best videos, you know, those happy moments, birthdays, celebrations, success, achievements. But we don't know what's going behind the closed doors. The sleepless nights, the hard work, the effort, the constant struggle, self-doubt. No one shows that. So I think when you see something on social media, just take it with a pinch of salt. That, you know, it isn't actually, be happy for others. It's not always that you should crib or be jealous. We all get what's meant for us. That's what I believe in. No, awesome. So you mentioned about journaling, right? What are some of the other practices or routines that help you stay grounded, that helped you stay motivated?
Yeah, I think I kind of briefly mentioned this. I think for me, it's really simple, like working out, journaling, listening to music, dancing, doing something that I've never experienced before, like a very simple thing. Spending time with my girlfriends, my family, and my friends is very important to me. Those are, I think, things that kind of keep me grounded, really. Detaching myself from my work sometimes really helps me because even like, for example, like going back to the conversation of social media, when I do a lot of my research, I end up seeing so much on social media. And sometimes I get like diverted into what I'm not supposed to be doing. I think, yeah, like just doing all of those things that I mentioned helps me stay grounded. I've tried a bunch of different things. Those have worked the best for me.
No, that makes sense. So going back to that 18-year-old immigrant girl, young woman arriving in the US today, what would you like to say to her?
Wow. What would I tell her? Um, Shoot, this is a great question. I'm literally thinking on the spot about this. If I were to see her again, she'd be shocked if she saw this right now. Like she'd be like, "Yo, who are you?" But I would just say like we made it. We did it. We're doing it. We made it. We continue to be work in progress. And like I'm really proud of you for listening to your inner voice and taking the steps that you did as an 18-year-old, because if she hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So I'd honestly just thank her and like tell her like you're doing the right things. That's what I would say.
No, that sounds great. And now I would like to move to my favorite part of the podcast. I love doing this. It's inspired from Coffee with Karan Rapid Fire.
Shoot. Okay. Sweet.
Hot or not, right?
Okay.
So I have list of questions for you, uh, and these are some bold questions, right?
Okay.
Don't be scared. And yeah, if you agree, you'll say hot. If you disagree, you'll say not. Okay?
Yes. Very ready. I think I'm ready for this round for sure. Yeah.
The first one is my favorite. Anyway, uh, girl proposing a guy instead of the other way around.
I'm very traditional. Not. I need the guy to go on his knee.
Why do you say that?
I mean, I'm very filmy. I'm pretty much a lover girl. And that's what I have. I mean, great for people that do that. But yeah, I need the guy to drop on his knee for sure. Yeah, I have no other reasoning for this.
Next one, using your parents' money to buy gifts for your partner.
Oh, not. Not. Um, I think if you want to get something for your partner, it should. It really depends, honestly, from person to person. I'll put it that way. Like, depends on how young you are. If you're like 16 years old, 15 years old, and you're like dating someone and you want to buy him or her a present, I get it. But I think if you're in your 20s, you're building a very like it's a very individual relationship, right? Like you're with your partner. I would say doing something in your means makes the most sense. Yeah, that's basically why.
Next question is guys, or not guys, your partner wearing pink or purple.
Sure, hot. Yeah, why not?
How do you define impact, and what kind of legacy are you hoping to create through your work, whether it's acting or in filmmaking?
That's such a good question. And I think I'm in such a work in progress stage, and I think I'll continue to be. But like I said, I think my biggest goal with films is to really bridge the East and the West. I grew up in India, I saw a lot of the West. And now being in the West, I see a lot of films coming from India, a lot of independent filmmakers also, right? So I really want to support that craft. I really want to bring independent filmmakers on the globe, and through whatever I really do. And that's the legacy I would really want to leave behind. I want to be one of the few people that helped get South Asian cinema to the center stage and not to the sidelines, and shattered the stereotypes that have been, predefined by media. I think media shapes pop culture. That's the reason why I was always in media. My choice in advertising, whatever I've really touched on has really gone back to that 18-year-old vague dream of hey, I want to make it big, but I want to have a positive impact. And that impact comes from what are you showing to the society and how are you defining it. And so for me, that would really mean getting South Asian cinema to the center stage and helping independent filmmakers bridge the East and the West. And I want to be a part of the legacy for sure.
And if someone listening to you today is scared to follow their creative dream, especially maybe someone not in their 20s, right? Maybe later in life, someone in 30s, 40s, what is one thing you would like to tell them?
Just do it. There's no right age to do anything. I mean, Baman Irani started acting in his 40s, right? So there's no right age to do anything. Just follow your calling and give it your all. Be consistent. Have your support system be your board of advisors and just do it. There's nothing that's going to stop you. One thing that I always said to myself was, I'm sure you've heard of the quote, she turned her dreams into plans and her cans into cans. I always followed that, and I think every person should as well. There's no right age. Just do it.
Awesome. Well, this was a great conversation. I loved speaking to you, honestly, and I learned so much from you, and I think I'll definitely be applying all of these things to my life.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you.